Today, I'm helping Clint install solar on his roof to cover 100% of his solar needs. He's actually one of my engineering professors from when I was in college. My son had him as an engineering professor, and he's on his second year of his PhD and getting married in a couple of months. I'm a granddad now, and he's still teaching. That's pretty impressive. Whether you're a seasoned installer or new to the game, you're sure to learn something useful today. Welcome back to Projects with Everyday Dave. Let's get started. Today we're installing 16 of these 400-watt bifacial Hyperion solar panels. And I wouldn't bother using bifacial panels on a dark color roof, but Clint picked these up on a great sale from Signature Solar. Speaking of Signature Solar, if you use my exclusive code and link in the description, you can get an additional discount even on sale prices. These panels can pick up reflections from the back side, but with the dark roof, we won't see very much. But even though there won't be significant backside gain, we still have the added advantage of the glass on the backside, which I believe will last longer than a standard backsheet. Backsheets can often crack or peel, and then you have water leaking into your panels. So worst case, you have a really great backsheet. They do have black frames and these really nice dark cells, so they're going to look really nice on the roof. I think it's a good choice. You purchased extra panels because you plan to expand in the future. Unfortunately, the utility won't let him put more than 120% of his current consumption on the roof. So 16 will go on the roof now, and then we'll expand later after you get an electric car or some other loads. We'll be able to justify the expansion. But he's bought all of the panels at once. And in fact, he went in with another friend to get a larger volume to get the maximum discount when you include shipping and all those other things. And that's a great way to do it. If you have a friend or someone else you know who wants to do solar, you can go in together and get all of the parts shipped at the same time, and you can get a better discount that way. One nice thing that you have is the net metering agreement with your utility. Your utility has 1 year net metering. My utility only net meters by the month. That means at the end of the month, we settle up, I get a credit if I overproduced, and I pay if I underproduced. In your case, you'll settle up at the end of the year, and the advantage there is you can produce a whole lot of power in the summer, use it in the winter at a 1-to-1 ratio, which is much better for the consumer. Your goal is to produce enough power to cover 100% of your electric bill, is that right?
That is correct.
So why do you want to do that?
Well, obviously to save money would be a great thing, but I also just think about the efficiency area. That sun would hit the roof and just heat up my shingles. Why not make electricity that I can use to power my house, maybe an EV in the future and other things?
Yeah, I mean, God gave us free sun, why not use it?
Absolutely.
Your goal here, as we discussed what products to use, was to cover your bill with the lowest entry-level cost possible, try and pay it off as quickly as possible. With that objective, we decided to go with a grid tie system so we don't have to put in batteries and some other expensive components. And you can do that because you have a backup generator, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an emergency, you can use the backup generator, but this gets your foot in the door, get your net metering agreement set up, you can cover your electric bill, and with the money you save, maybe later, you can put in a battery backup system. In order to achieve that, we're going to go with these 4-port Hoy-Miles microinverters. One inverter will cover 4 panels, so less installation, fewer modules, less hopefully to go wrong. And I'll go into a little more detail on these inverters right before we install them. You know you're working with engineers when they install a 30-foot ramp to get up on the roof. And you can probably tell by this creative ramp that we're going to put these panels on the roof. And if you've watched my other videos, you know I recommend putting your array on the ground if you possibly can. But you have a lot of trees around, and you didn't want to have a big array in your backyard, and after looking at the pros and cons, you decided it was going to be best for you to put it on your roof.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you have a new roof. It's recently been shingled.
Correct. And it faces a good direction.
That's right. It faces mostly south. The angle's pretty good. Also, racking on the roof is a little cheaper than racking on the ground. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. You have to weigh the pros and cons. So that's why we're putting it on the roof.
When I was looking to put it on the roof, I think you're pretty much forced to have this rapid shutdown.
That's right.
So by the time you've added those other costs to a string system, really microinverters are the more cost-effective way to go.
Yeah, if you're putting solar on the roof, almost everywhere requires module level shutdown, Once you add a module and a string inverter, it really starts to eat into the cost advantage of string inverters, and microinverters really start to shine in that situation, and I think it makes the most sense. Also, you're running a short distance, so the high voltage that you can get with a string inverter doesn't really help you much. 250 volts is just fine to get off the roof and down to your electrical panel. So yeah, microinverter is kind of an obvious choice for this kind of system. When you put it on the roof, it does add a little bit of complexity. It makes the permitting process a little bit more challenging. But if you have a good racking supplier, they can really help you out with that. And in this case, we have Pegasus, who has helped us out on this install. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But they've helped you with the permitting process. They have a permit pack, and that was a big help, I think, in getting you through that.
Yeah, that was huge. Without the, you have to have a professional engineer stamp on the drawings. And so having that done, I could do the drawing simply, but I don't have the professional stamp.
Right.
So to be able to get that was really helpful.
Yeah. You may see some of us not using a harness while we're up on the roof, but don't let our lack of wisdom stop you from being safe. If you fall off the roof, you've negated any value of installing a solar system. For this roof, we're going to be using Pegasus Racking, and they offer a permit pack that provides all the standard stamped drawings that Clint needed for his submission to get his building permit. It made the process a lot easier. We're all stamped and ready to install. In fact, you even had the inspector by to look at what you're planning to do, and he said, good to go.
He gave us the thumbs up.
All right, and that's a great way to do it. If you are planning to do an install yourself, talk to your inspector, have a relationship with them. Invite them over to have a consultation and make sure that you have everything that they are going to want to see. Every inspector has some special things that they prefer that maybe don't exactly match the code, and it makes it a lot easier if you do it the way they want you to do it. So Clint did that, and I think that's going to help us out a lot.
Yeah, I was really grateful that he was willing to come over. He looked at my drawings, looked at the parts that I had, and told me, you know, just had to make a few very slight changes, but I knew what his priorities were, and I was very grateful.
Okay, let's take a look at the racking. I'm always open to new and creative solution, and you may have seen some previous videos where I was trying some new creative racking from a company called Pegasus. They have continued to innovate their products since that time, and I've been so impressed with their creativity, I asked if they wanted to be involved in this project. They not only agreed to help us with materials, but they sent Brady, their installation expert and field support manager from Pegasus.
Thanks for having us out. Really appreciate you thinking of us.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you could come help so that we can show how to do your system exactly right. So a big thank you to Pegasus for helping to sponsor this install. They aren't an affiliate. I don't get anything if you use them. I just really like their system and wanted to use it for my friend's install, and I thought you'd really enjoy seeing all the creative solutions that they have for racking. Brady, could you go over some of the unique features of the different components we'll be putting on the roof?
Yeah, for sure. So this is our 7-foot black rail. We also comes in mill and 14-footer, but we went with black for aesthetics today, and then with 7-footers are a lot easier to manage around, so it's great for your DIY project. The next thing you're going to put on the roof would be our InstaFlash 2. Now this can be installed as either a rafter or deck attached. It's 2 into the rafter or 6 into the deck. What's great about this is that we have our pre-installed butyl-based sealant that'll never harden. So in 25 years when we come back, because of the thermal expansion and contraction that you have, it's important that that stays malleable. So when you have like a hardening sealant under there, it'll break away from the roof, potentially causing leaks later on.
I really like these feet. The fact that if you miss one of the rafters, you can shoot in additional screws and make a deck mount, I think is really helpful. And the flexible sealant is a key thing. You don't have to tear up shingles to put these on. It's just fast and reliable. I really like this solution.
Yeah, we still offer our flashing foot, which some of our customers use, but what the reason that we came out with this is now because a lot of the shingle manufacturers, the glue that they're using, you can't pry away.
Right.
So you end up doing more damage trying to put a flashing in than you do actually help with the flashing. So yeah, this is a great product. So the next thing that you're going to do is from there you attach the rail to the L foot with our dovetail T-bolt. The tip of the bolt goes back towards the shaft of the bolt, so it grabs more of the metal inside that channel. Now if you look, you can kind of see it a little more inside the rail itself. And when you have a flat bolt under high winds, what happens is the rail channel will open and that'll become the failure point, but with dovetail it'll actually close in on itself, becoming stronger. Once you start putting the rails down, you're going to need to use the splice. It's a no tool, no interference splice. It cuts away at the anodization and bonds automatically. You can install all the mounts, all the components right on top of it, and it's not going to interfere as you go.
Pretty nice feature. You don't have to shoot any bolts to connect it. Just slide it in and go.
Yeah, it takes half a second to install a splice.
All of these things work towards making the installation faster, which I really like.
Our whole thing is a better day on the job, so that's what we really designed the whole product to. After all your rails are in place, what you're going to do is your wire management. So we're going to use the MLPE mount, which is the module level power electronic. Yep, and then just twist. Exactly. So it just slides right in, clips right in. You do all your wire management underneath here. You have your microinverter or optimizer, whatever you're going to use on the roof. That you put it there, and then you're going to manage all your wires with the wire management clip. Now this is made out of the same thing that car bumpers are made out of, so you know it's going to last the life of the system. So you don't have any zip ties that are going to eventually break. Cable grip is great for managing those up trunks or a bunch of home runs or something like that. You can fit 4 PV wires inside there. This is our hidden end clamp for aesthetics. It gives you that nice clean look on the end,
which you can then cap off with the cap.
Exactly.
And then the whole system will be black and clean.
Black and clean, exactly. And then this is our multi-clamp. You can use it as a mid or an end.
And these just twist in place.
Yep.
They have a little spring on there, so it keeps it up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the features I know you have is if you have to replace a panel later, you don't have to pull all the panels out up to it. You can take out this mount, just cut the spring and put it back in.
Yep, exactly.
That's a great feature. It's apparent to me that the people designing this stuff also install systems, because you're thinking about the things that will make your life easier on the field.
Yeah, we actually have, when we were designing the racking system, we have what's our customer council, which started off as 12 installers, all different sizes. We had the small mom and pops that, one crew companies, and we also had giant national accounts, and we really wanted to hit all the features that installers wanted. And then we had some ideas of our own, which will lead us to the skip rail clamp. The skip rail clamp is used to eliminate rails, rows of rails, which is going to eliminate not just the rails, but also the mounts as well. And all those penetrations, any clamps that you're going to use inside there, it's designed to make your life really a lot easier.
I like the fact that you guys are considering the consumer. You could keep all of the rails and sell me more materials, but you came up with a way to eliminate the materials that you're selling me, which counterintuitively would reduce the amount of sales, but I think in the end you're going to have more customers because you're saving everybody money.
Yeah, it not only eliminates rows of rails, rows of mounts, also steps on the roof because it auto levels as well.
Bonding.
Takes care of the bonding.
Fewer holes in the roof. I mean, it's all around much better.
Exactly. Which leads us to the bonding. Now you're going to use one of these. Today we're going to use the bond box. We don't need the ground lug, but you would use the ground lug if you're doing like an attic run with your wires up to the roof. Bond box is our rail mounted junction box. So the reason that we call it the bond box is because it automatically bonds to the rail when you secure it to the rail. So you have your connection point here, which bonds to the rail the same way that the ground lug does. And then you have this thick aluminum bracket that goes down here to some lugs that's going to land your green coming up, and then we also have a couple extra lugs in case we needed to go off to hit some arrays. We don't need to do that today, but you do that as an option.
That's a great feature. You have the bus bar inside the box, automatically grounded to the rail. I mean, this is innovative thinking, I think.
Also has pre-installed weave holes as well, so you don't have to worry about water.
And then all of the system can be installed with a 1/2-inch impact driver.
Yeah, that was actually key. When we were designing the system, I told the engineers that it had to be a one-tool system the whole way, because the problem with switching tools isn't the actual having the tool, it's the stopping what you're doing, going to your bag that could be on the opposite side of the roof, could be on the ground. The one tool was something that we really wanted to have.
Fantastic overview. Now it's time for us to get up on the roof and lay the system out.
Let's do it.
All right, before we get up on the roof, can you explain the best way to lay this out? And I just want to say, when I lay out my racking, usually I'm on the ground, and I always put a little extra rail at the end of my panels because I change my panels all the time. Of course, maybe I'm not a typical homeowner, but Does it make sense to run our rails past the end of the panels in case we change them someday and they're wider panels?
Well, we're using the hidden end clamp today, so I wouldn't do that. I would keep that hidden end clamp there for aesthetics. So what I would do in that case is that I would have your mount, I would max out the cantilever at 24 inches. So then that way you're maxed out on one side, so you can just add to the other side if you need to.
All right, so we have a plan to expand the rails, but we don't have the ugly appearance of rails sticking out for the 30 years we have them up there, just in case we need a little more space.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center of the roof. We want to make sure that it's centered for aesthetics, make it look nice and neat. So you find the center, and then you're going to measure over half the array. So this is going to be 4, so you measure over 4 panels, go back, measure over the other 4, and then I'm going to go up and I'm going to measure up the length. So I'm going to get the X and Y's that way. After I have all the panels laid out, I'm gonna figure out where I want the rails. Now you're gonna have 2 rows of rails on the bottom row. That's gonna be your anchor row. And after that, you only need the top row of rails. So for each top row of rail, what you wanna do is you wanna measure up the panel length, and that's gonna tell you where the middle of the window to start for your rail placement. You're gonna have a 5-inch up and down, so 10 inches in total zone to install the rail for that top rail. So then that way you can keep it on the same shingle and you don't have to cut shingles or install right on a shingle edge.
All right, let's mark it out.
Let's do it. Yeah, so the first thing I'm gonna get up here is I'm gonna look for any visuals that might be in the way. Here we have a stink pipe. It could also be skylights, things like that. So I wanna make sure that the panels are gonna fit here.
What are you using to mark the roof?
All we're using here is just some sidewalk chalk. It's a lot easier to use this. That other wax stuff you use, do not use that on the roof because especially in the summertime, it's just gonna melt in your pockets on the roof. You don't need it at all. Use sidewalk chalk. First thing that I'm gonna do is find the middle. We did that, measuring the whole thing, dividing it by 2. So we got 19 feet here. That's gonna be the center of our array. So we know we wanna install it on this row because of this stink pipe. We wanna make sure that we have enough room here. So we're installing just underneath it to make sure we got enough room. So right here is the middle of the array. Draw one line. So we'll do this so it's nice and easy to see. We're gonna measure over the length of the panel 4 times here and then 4 times that way. And the panel is 44 5/8, so we're gonna add a 1/2 inch for the clamp, so that's gonna be 45 3/8. 45 3/8. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now let's do it the other way. So now we gotta measure down. So we're gonna measure down the length of the panel, plus a 1/2 inch for the skip rail clamp. So this panel is 67 3/4, so we're gonna add that 1/2 inch, so 68 1/4. 68 1/4. So that's gonna take us all the way down to this bottom shingle here. And then we do it on the opposite side, 68 1/4. Alrighty.
Now, I thought we were gonna have 1 shingle showing, but that looks less than 1 shingle there.
No, not showing. It want it installed on the shingle, but all right here, we're pretty much maxed out, right? So that's as low as we can go. We can bring this up a little bit more. Really, these are kind of just for reference. We can always bring the panels up just a little bit, as long as we don't kind of max out that cantilever on the rail when we're laying it out.
Okay, so as long as we're within a couple inches of where we're landing, this gives us our general layout.
Yeah, when I'm laying out, when I see an obstruction like the pipe vent, what I like to do is, give myself a little bit of room and adjust later if I have to.
Okay.
So now these marks are just for reference for while we're dropping panels. We want to stay true to them so then that way our panels stay as close to being in the right spot as you possibly can. Periodically, I look up to make sure that I'm in the right spot. Measure this last one. Perfect. Easy. Now we can see where every panel is going to go. We got a marking for each one, lower and the top ones as well.
So we swapped out our yellow chalk for some blue chalk. Now it's time to mark the rails.
So the next thing we want to do is lay out where the rails are going to go. The rail placement is actually determined by the panel manufacturer for the cantilever. The general rule is as long as you're within 1/3, you're good to go. So what we're going to do here is I would put this one about, I'm going to set that at about 18 inches right here. Right, for that lower one, and I'm gonna do the same measurement down here, 18 inches here, right? But that's gonna get us too low onto that shingle, so I'm gonna bring this one up to 16, right? And now from here, This is actually really important with the skip rail. We want to make sure that this row is supported properly. So what we want to do is measure from this row here up the panel length, and that's going to tell us where the top rail sits. It was 67 3/4 plus that 1/2 inch gets us 68 1/4. That gets us there, and then we would do that as many rows as we have to get us that top rail placement. Now when you install it here, you have a 10-inch window, 5 inches up, 5 inches below. That's really just to get you centered in whatever shingle you want. For tile, you have 8 inches on either side, but we're not doing tile today. So we'll do the same thing over here, 18 here. That gets us a little low on the shingle, and these shingles, there's a little curve to them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring that up a little bit. I'm gonna go 18 1/2 here. That's totally fine. It's not gonna do anything in the integrity or anything like that. That's just gonna get us right shingled. That's just gonna get us right straight on that shingle, so we're not having to worry about cutting anything. Over here we did 16, and that's perfect. That is still on that shingle. Same thing over there. That shingle looks about the same, but it's gonna get us right into there. From here, measure it up again. That's 67 1/4. That's pretty low. So I'm gonna move that up a little bit to get us right in the middle of that shingle, and we're good to go there. Now what's key is if you moved it up a little bit, you wanna make sure that you measure off, or if we had a 3rd row, you wanna make sure that you measure off of the original measurement, so that's 68 1/4. Because if you move this one up, now that one's gonna be up, 2 inches or whatever. That's not gonna be a true measurement.
One of the things I've noticed is you're making sure we're landing in the middle of a row of shingles, regardless of if the dimension is exactly right. It's better to be placed properly on the shingle than have a perfectly straight or parallel rail.
Yeah, so you don't wanna have the mount land right here. Like our InstaFlash 2 is tested and approved for that, but best practice is to make sure that it's completely on a shingle and not kind of spread between the two. It's just better waterproofing in the long run.
Yes.
Even though we've tested it and we approved it, it's just a best practice kind of thing.
Makes common sense that trying to seal over a step is going to be more difficult, so why make it worse?
Exactly.
And we'll snap some chalk lines.
Exactly.
We're going to snap a chalk line through the rail marks we made all the way across the roof.
So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start at one side and work our way over. Our design tool calculated that we're gonna have 48 spans for all of our mounts, which means is where the mounts are gonna sit, or at 48 inches apart. We know that the mounts are gonna be spaced at 48 inches apart. The way that we figured that out was through our design tool, which for this area is 20 PSF for snow and 110 mile-an-hour winds. You combine those two, you get us 48 inches for your spans. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is try and find this rafter here. So we're gonna hammer it out. And you can hear that pitch change. So your rafter should be right here. Now I normally wouldn't do that, but for visual, we'll do that. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna click the safety here, and that's gonna make it to where the cage can collapse. You wanna go center hole first, so then that way the caulking can spread out evenly, right? If you started on one side, it would push the caulking to the other side. So you wanna make sure that it's spread out evenly. So we take it here. This is where we think it's gonna sit, just like so. Now you see how that collapsed like that? I know so quickly. I know that that is not into a rafter, but it's mainly by feel. So I think the rafter's over to the right a little bit. So we're gonna hit it into that one to the right, just here. That does not feel like it's into the rafter either. So then this one, I don't think it's over here. That's not it. So we're gonna sink it right here, and this one might just become a deck. Yeah, we might be over just a little to the left, but we're just gonna make this a deck. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we'll go down to this one, and we're gonna bring this over to the right, because I'm pretty sure that it's over to the right more. Yeah, I thought it would sound, sometimes it can walk on you and be kind of, the only way to really know is to pre-drill. Yeah. That hit a rafter.
I think we should use the other impact gun. That one's a little weak in the poop, I think.
Yeah, this is a little, let's me hit the second
That's
one so we don't
forever.
forget it. So now that we know that we hit a rafter on that one thing that I like to do is I like to pre-measure everything just to kind of get me a rough zone of where I would like it. If these rafters are true to on 24, then we know that we should be good to hit rafters all the way down. 48 right here. One. I'm still gonna hammer it out as I'm doing this.
That'll at least get you close.
Exactly, but this will get me, this way I don't have to measure each one out. I'm doing it right now. And the way that I like to work is I like to work with one set of tools and do that tool all the way through rather than trying to carry, you know, the impact, the hammer, Instaflash, all that as I'm trying to measure it out. Right now, I'm measuring all this out. I can throw this on my hip and I don't have to worry about doing anything or carrying anything around. So we're right there. So one thing that I'm looking at as I see this is that we're evenly spaced. I don't have to add an extra 24-inch mount anywhere because we're at 48 inches. Some jurisdictions, they require you to stagger mounts, which means you would have to, on the bottom, you would have to put a 24 and then change your 48 from there. So that if that's the case, we would have to add one mount on the bottom, which is what our plan's called for. Do you guys, and we have enough material, do you want to add a mount?
I think
you want to stagger?
Good idea to stagger them.
You want to stagger them? Okay, cool. That's fine. So if that's the case, then
You still always have the one on this end. Right?
you'll still, yeah, there'll be one going up the whole way and you'll be fine there. But now what we're gonna do is, and your roof looks angled, so I can't pull the same measurement from there. But what I can do is I'm just gonna kind of keep it in the general window here. And I'm okay at lining up. So if that's gonna be generally where we want that other one to go, again, these are just kind of more for,
yeah, get you in
the
ballpark.
the general windows. So then that way I'm not having to carry everything around. So then we're gonna go there, we're gonna hit 24 there, and then 48s.
Now, is that cantilever sufficient, or do we have to add one?
No, we're gonna have to add a mount here to make it the 24. The cantilever for this one is gonna be 24 inches. It's no more than a third of the span.
Okay.
And the engineering report will tell you individually which job it will be set at. Now we're gonna do the top row, which is the same. So we're gonna carry this one up all the way to the top. This top row is gonna mirror that bottom row. We're gonna go somewhere right about here, and then it's gonna go 24, 40, and now we're hitting 48s. There we go. Yep, so go ahead, sink it.
Ooh, look at all that goo go all over.
Exactly. Now you hit the top one above that.
Okay.
You're gonna have to hold it for just a second, just to get through that metal.
Whoops.
Yep.
Okay, because there's metal there.
Yeah, so the reason that you have the metal is so that way the caulking doesn't come out, or when you're not using that hole.
Right, that it doesn't squirt out all
Exactly.
over. There it goes. No water going in that.
Nope.
Once we got the hang of finding the rafters, we were able to hit them almost every time. There ended up being only 2 or 3 mounts total that used the 6-bolt deck attach mount method instead of just the 2 bolts into the rafter. The caulking completely fills the space under the mount. It seems like a very robust mount solution. I really like it. And Brady says he's using it on his roof, so I know he also has confidence in it.
All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna even this up. We're gonna have this just slightly past our end of panel mark right there. We take the T, put it in the channel, and then we raise it up to where the top of the L foot is at this score line right here. And that's gonna get this T-bolt in the middle of that 1.5-inch leveling capability of the L foot. And then you secure it. Come over here, do the same thing over here, right to the top of that score line. And then we're just gonna hit all of our splices from there. See, it only goes in one way. And keep going. And so on.
All right.
The teeth go on the same side as the rail channel. Now, the big rule for here, and this is every racking system, this isn't just ours, you have to have a mount on both sides of a splice. So if this situation happens and you're maxed out at your cantilever, you need a splice just for a little bit, bring your rail foot, cut it inside, and cut from there.
Oh, gotcha. We can't, if we splice it right here,
It's fine.
it's fine because it's between two mounts. But
Exactly.
you can't have a splice here.
Exactly.
Yep.
Honestly, normally I don't worry about it. Normally what I do is I'll leave it over a little bit, like I did here.
Yeah.
This is over just a little bit, and then I saw it off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we can use a rail to get us close. All right, then we can sight these and look for spots that need adjusted.
Yeah, I already did the a little bit at the top. Then it's see how that one dropped?
Yeah, it can go down more though.
Okay.
Okay.
Right there.
And then this one needs to go up.
This one needs to go up.
There you go.
There you go.
He's an engineer. He likes it precise.
Yeah. The big thing to remember too when you're like trying to get it like right perfect is that all this is going to move. It's all going to move with the heat and the thermal expansion and contraction, right? So you want to get it as close as possible as you can, but at the same time like remembering that there's going to
Well, it decided to rain on us, so we'll take the moment to talk about the electronics. As I mentioned in the beginning, we're using a 4-port Hoy-Miles microinverter for this build. And I've been testing these inverters for over a year now in collaboration with a local off-grid system designer, Off-Grid Power Systems. My testing so far has shown them to be very efficient and very reliable. So I reached out to Hoy-Miles to see if they were interested in being a part of this build. And they were happy to join. So thanks to Hoy-Miles for providing these high-power 4-port microinverters. Because each inverter can handle up to 4 panels, we will only need 4 inverters for the entire install. We'll have 2 strings on the roof, 2 inverters on each string. They'll be connected with these robust trunk lines. And you can get these from Hoy-Miles. They're 10 gauge, and they have these ports on them that each inverter plugs into. They're completely watertight connections. You can get the connectors by themselves if you want to build your own trunk line. There's a 1600 watt, an 1800 watt, and a 2000 watt version of this inverter. The 2000 watt inverter can handle up to 4 500 watt panels with no clipping. For this build, we can use an 1800 watt version because it will be more than enough for 400 watt panels since it can handle panels up to 450 watts with no clipping. Normally, I advocate over-paneling a system and living with a little bit of clipping on days of full sun to save cost on inverters. But when it comes to microinverters on a hot roof, I don't think it hurts to overspec them a little bit. That reduces the duty cycle and reduces the chance of having a failure at some point, requiring me to get up on the roof. So I think it's worth the cost just to go with the higher power ones. 2 of the panels will be fairly far away from the microinverter, and so we'll need to make extensions for them. And I prefer to use these Stobli connectors. They're a little bit more expensive than off-brand options, but I find that they have better compatibility. They're a little bit more robust. They just seem to be better connectors. So we purchased these MC4 connectors and 2 spools of 10 gauge PV wire from Signature Solar. By the way, you can get a $50 discount on any purchase of $500 or more at Signature Solar using my link and code in the description below. Since we're using the trunk lines for most of our cabling and we're only going to use this for extensions, we really won't need all that much, but I do so many projects, I just went ahead and got the larger spools. It's a better price per foot that way. And if you're doing an install with a friend or somebody else, you can go in and share materials. It's a really good way to save costs on your install.
So if we're working on from this side over, we want these 4 panels into one microinverter. So probably what we're gonna have to do is go here, which would be enough for this panel and that panel to reach into, and then probably even this panel over, but this one might need jumpers into it. Okay, but we're gonna install it going up this way.
Got it. It's okay to have it upside down?
You can go either way. So the only thing is we want to make sure this will interfere with mounts. So you just want to make sure you're over on this side. So what we'll do is we'll put it like right here, but then we might hit the frame. That frame might come really close to there. So we're going to have to go on this side. MLPE mount, right? So this one, these are really thick. So what we want to do is we want to back it out as far as it's going to go. All this plastic is just to make it easier to install. So what I like to do is grab it like so, push down just ever so slightly and twist. All right, same thing over here. I back it out beforehand, you can back it out after, it doesn't matter. So and then we'll move this, same thing, right there, boom, boom. Put those kind of into position, and then we just right? Now we're gonna push it over as far as we can over there to make sure we can hit that. Tighten, tighten, that's it, right? But first what we're gonna do is to utilize the open wire management, we're gonna put the trunk in before we do all this. So this one is already connected, that's totally fine because we're running it that way. So let's get that trunk.
All right, we keep getting rained out here. We've laid out the microinverters across the roof. We're putting one microinverter kind of in the middle of every 4 panels. And then so that we don't have to have a really long trunk line, we're going to connect every other microinverter together. So the first microinverter will connect to our junction box, and it will jump over the second inverter to the third one. The final, number 4 microinverter will connect to the middle one, and we'll go from the middle one to the junction box. So we have 2 strings connected by every other microinverter, each one managing 4 panels. We need a tool to open up the connector. With the connector box open, we can feed in the end of the next trunk line. And we'll just make sure that same color wires are lined up. In this case, we have our ground in the middle and line 1 and line 2 on the outside. These wires come pre-tinned, and you want to make sure you get them fully torqued. I'll wiggle it a little bit and then tighten them again just to make sure everything's fully seated. That's sealed, and we can slide on the nut. Now we only have 2 of these joints to make for the whole roof. Then we'll be able to connect the inverter to that plug. The very last one doesn't have another trunk line connecting, so we need to put a plug in it. In order to do that, we'll take the seal and the wire cinch, put them in just like we normally would, and then before we tighten this down, we'll put the plug in the end. It pulls the plug in, seals the end off, and now it's watertight. We can plug our microinverter in, and it's ended. If we ever wanted to expand, we could just take this cap off and put another trunk line on. I wish we could turn the rooster off.
Oh, come on. That'll get all kinds of good comments.
So we're gonna connect these 2 like this. We heard that snap. Put that in there. Then the MLPE's on. Then the micro on there. 1, 2, and then we will take a wire management clip, put it here, and manage that up that way, and then we'll keep going.
The trunk lines for the microinverters were very robust, but it was a bit of a challenge to manage the larger connectors along the outside of the rail. We also ran into an issue trying to run 2 trunk lines inside the rail. It worked fine under the microinverters and under the clips, but the mid-mounts for the panels need a little bit more space for them to slide smoothly. The countermeasure was to run one of the trunk lines outside of the channel around each mid-mount so it could easily slide. The 4-port microinverters are cheaper than installing 1 microinverter per panel, but it does require a little bit more planning up front. Before installing the panels, we made a layout sheet with the serial numbers from the 4 inverters and mapped which port each panel would be connected to. That way, the tracking software can be matched to the physical configuration on the roof.
No.
To our layout sheet.
Dave, you got that?
Yeah, and then this is 1, 2.
I think that
So what's
should
this?
be
This is
3, 4.
3.
Yep. So give me that. Give me the one. You should have the male. Okay. So we're here, and then I saw you had wire management clips. All right, now, Clinton, hold those. Hold the wires.
Yep.
Okay. Now we're gonna put this panel back. Here's what I do. I'll go and I'll push this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this up until the top of the clamp is about where this cell is, right?
Okay.
And try and use the cell to keep everything straight, because we snap lines, so we know our rail's straight.
This corner is your corner, right? So that kind of tell you where it needs to go up and
Exactly.
down too, right?
So we can go. Actually, let's go down a little bit to your point there, because we're going to use the top. Try and
This
get the
line
top
on
of
cell
exactly. You want the top of this clamp
to line up with that.
to line up with
Right.
that cell, right? So we're going
Right.
to push that as close to you as possible, because we didn't give ourselves a lot of room to play. Go ahead and tighten that. There you go. Boom.
Okay.
Okay. When you're doing these, you want to kind of mix them up a little bit for them to use it. It's best to figure out where you want it first, and then pull it in, and then pop it in, and then you should be good.
We made a slight adjustment to the alignment after installing the 3rd panel. It's important to make sure you're running straight or you'll be chasing the deviation all the way across the roof.
Okay, now are we even on that side?
Not quite, you need to go down just a hair.
Up too much?
Yep.
All right, go ahead, hit the middle right there. All right.
I'm just gonna make sure.
So Clint, I'm gonna have you put those on.
Okay.
Okay, so.
One will go between the two.
Yep.
Is it this way or this way?
Nope, you had it right the first time. Yep. See, so that black tab on there.
Perfect.
That's the same thickness as the multi-clamp, right? So you know that's always got to be facing up because that's the spacer tab. Now go. Nope, the black tab on the back side.
Oh, this thing.
Yep. So there you go. So go ahead and put that down. Put it on the frame. Okay. Now clamp. There you go. Push it all the way over. Clamp it down. You're good. That's it.
Oops.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it. Do the second one.
Okay.
Now that one's gonna span the two corners.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Line the bolt up with the gap.
Yep.
Clamp it down.
Oops.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, I'm gonna put this one here like this. Boom. 1 and 2. All right, Timothy, can I hold that for me?
Oh.
All right.
I feel like I didn't get that in good.
Don't worry about it, because we can adjust it later. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna pop off.
So we're fine. All right. Now.
This is the magic. So we are gonna get 3 panels with no added extensions.
Hopefully.
Is it working?
Yeah. Actually, we're just gonna pull that tight after we lower it.
All right.
Now, Timothy, walk it back. There you go. That's the spacer. See, it's the same thickness as that clamp. Okay, so see how much.
Make sure they.
See how much this is off, right?
Back it.
Right? No, yeah. So now go ahead and tighten it.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Pulls it up, right up.
Ooh, cool.
Easy. So no more leveling. We don't tighten that one until that next panel's down. So now we're good there. This panel's done. Boom. Oh well, no, it's not done. We got to manage this side. So now we'll go here. All right, boom, boom. We got that baggie of S-clips.
Whenever possible, make the connections to the microinverters before laying down the panels. I find it's best to use the S-type stainless steel clips that slide onto the edge of the panels to secure the PV wire along the edge of the panels. You want to make sure there is no wire sagging that can eventually contact the roof. It can get snagged by debris, or the asphalt shingles can eventually wear through the wire sheeting. Because of the strategic placement of the microinverters, we ended up only needing 4 or 5 extension cables for the whole roof. So the easiest thing is to stage it in the crimpers. Since every one is different, we just made them up on the roof as needed.
So then
You got it tight enough by hand.
yeah, I was gonna say I never use these things.
In retrospect, I would have set the rails a little bit higher on the mount feet to make access under the panels a little bit easier. On other roof installs, where we had 1 module per panel, we staged the wire management on the panel before installing it on the roof.
Okay,
And that makes it a little bit easier.
That's it. So one thing, a little tip here, when you do this, right? So you want to twist it, right? And then so enough here to where now when you do it, it's gonna be pushing up this way, right?
So you never want it to be pushing down, you want it pushing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hide this in the frame a little bit, right? And then take this piece and I'm gonna go right here underneath and then right into here. And then that should be money.
Is that big long arms? Gorgeous. Look at that. It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, 4
See
panels
all
all
4
put in.
things.
Taking all your guys' fun. All right. That's way too much. You're good. No, yeah, I mean, it's fine, but you did it more than you need to. Once you feel it tighten, you're good to go. I guess you don't
This
need
you can crush.
Yeah, so a big problem in the industry is glass breaking on panels. due to thermal expansion and contraction, right? And when you over torque this is torqued down so much, the only resistance that it has is to break the glass.
The skip rail clamps eliminate a rail and result in perfect alignment between the two rows of panels. But you do have to be a little bit more careful in setting the panels so you don't knock the clamps off. Once we reach the halfway point, we would no longer be able to utilize our easy roof access. So we stage the rest of the panels up on the roof before continuing. The second row always goes much quicker than the first. Even with the rain and filming, we were able to install all of the racking and all of the panels in one day. To keep from marring up the panels when we cut these off flush, we're going to put a little bit of plastic against the panel there and tape it on. Moment of truth. Look at that. Nice and clean. We're going to use these hidden end rail clamps. They have some teeth on them that will help grip the end of the rail, so when I pull it tight, I have something to push against when I shoot the bolt in. Okay, there we go. Oh, yeah. There we go. Probably could have cut that just a tiny bit tighter, but I don't think you'll see that from the ground. All right, we have our nice, clean, finished edge. I have to say the black panels with the flush cut black rails looks really good. The skip rail clamps make all the panels align perfectly. I am really happy with the result. I think it looks great. We have a couple of options for putting together our combiner box. Because Pegasus already includes a grounding bus that's already bonded to the entire system, we don't need to manage the ground wires. And typically I would use one of these DIN rail connectors, and it has ground lugs and line 1 and line 2. It's really convenient and easy to install. And actually this box has mounts for DIN rail, so we could mount that right in there. That's one great option. Because we already have a ground bus in there, we're just going to use Polaris lugs this time. And it's just multi-wire connectors. You can get these lots of different places. These are UL rated. We'll just need one connector for each wire. It's like a giant wire nut. The nice thing about these is they have some grease in them that prevents corrosion if you were to use aluminum, which we're not, we're using copper, but it's nice to have in there. And you can tighten them down with an Allen wrench. So we'll be sure and have very good tight connections. Then we just need a connector for the conduit that comes out the other side. We'll drill all the holes with just a multi-step bit. This is a plastic box, so it'll be easy to drill in. The Hoy Miles system has 10 gauge wire coming out of it, and we'll just need to attach glands on the other side of the box, and we'll use the step bit to put those in to make sure that the box is sealed on all sides. But it doesn't have to be 100% sealed. There are weep holes in the bottom of the box, so if any moisture were to get in there, it will be able to get out. It's really just to keep it weather resistant. I'm going to place the junction box back far enough to be behind the rail so the rail can land without hitting the box. This is about where we want it. Snaps into place, tighten it down. And now that's bonded to the rail. We don't have to add any other wires to do that. One of my trunk lines is going to nicely come into the box through our glands. The other one is much longer than needed, so I'll go ahead and shorten that. There we go. We'll use a cord strain relief grommet. It has a seal in it so that our cables coming in will be sealed. All right, I made a little S to go over the eaves. We'll have a pull box at the top to go over the edge of the roof. So I just need to put my straight piece of pipe in here. And then we can come over the top. There we go. We're gonna go ahead and assemble the conduit. We've pre-painted it to closely match the siding so it will blend into the background. There we go, okay. This corner isn't an exact 90 or any other exact angle, so I just use a heat gun to heat it up a little bit, and then you can bend it to whatever angle you want. In this case, we just opened up a 90 a little bit, and that gives us exactly what we need. Then we have a T-body here, because our expansion is going to be on this roof, and we want to be able to tie into the existing conduit. For now, we're just going to stub it out, so later when we expand, we can open this up and pull our wires through the same conduit. That's also why we're using 1 inch. Gives us lots of space for future expansion. All right, I'll run the bag and string up to the top of the roof and then attach the vacuum at this end and we'll suck it down. All right. There we go, sucked it out. All right, that was super fast and easy. Now the string is through. I'm gonna attach this tougher rope to it. We'll pull it back through so I have something very strong to pull on, because sometimes when we're pulling through, you get caught on something, you have to pull really hard. So we need something heavier than this kite string. I've attached our pull rope to the string and now we can just pull it through. In order to pull this through, we have two red 10 gauge and 2 black 10 gauge we've measured out using our string, so we know how much to put in there. And then I'm going to feed in the 8 gauge ground with that. I'm going to pull an extra rope, so if we expand later, it'll be easier to pull wires back through. Then I like to stagger my wires a little bit so that there's a taper on the bend. It goes around curves easier and I can wrap each wire a little bit on its own. You don't want to get stuck. And then I always add some lubricant. I say always, but the first time I tried to pull 250 feet and got completely stuck and almost had to get out a backhoe. Ever since then, I've used lubricant. We will use lubricant. Yes, we will. All right, put our lubricant on. Everything is taped up nicely. A little bit of a stagger so it's flexible and can go around the corners. A little extra tape where there's bumps so it doesn't get caught. And we're pulling it from the bottom up, even though that's against gravity, because all of our bell housings face down, so there's less things to get caught on. I'll just put the most lubricant at the beginning. Okay, go ahead and pull it. There it is. Did it pull in?
It's all in?
Nice. Well, that was not too bad. Time to wire up the J-box. I put a little knot in each one of the cables so that they can't accidentally get pulled back through and put unnecessary strain on the junctions. So the first thing we'll do is connect the bus bar with all of the ground. I need to know which is which at the other end. So I need you to get a meter and go down there and see which one is shorted. I'm going to take a red and a black and short them to each other, and you're going to tell me which pair it is and mark it with a piece of tape. Now, so we can make sure we know which pair is which, I'm going to short 2 of these together and we'll check at the other end which 2 are shorted, and then I can mark them with a piece of tape and I'll know which string is which. Polaris lug has an Allen key on one side and ports on the other. Take one string, start with the red, slide it in, make sure I don't get insulation under that bolt, tighten it down, and there's a sheet that tells you the exact torque that these have to be tightened to, and it depends on which diameter wire it is. Make sure that's tight. Put 2 plugs in. That's leg 1. Now we'll do the same thing for the black.
So you could put wire nuts here.
Yeah, you could. These are a little more robust than a wire nut. Wire nut, you got to make sure everything's twisted together and one's not shorter than the other, and wire nuts can be okay.
But if this is a 30-year job and I don't want to get back here on this roof, let's not cheap around.
Yeah, I mean, these were $30.
Wow.
So they're not cheap, but
Yeah, we don't want to be back here. That's the thing, and I fall on that too much, where I'll go too cheap and then have to buy twice. Or
yeah, I've done that enough times in my life that I call it in my videos, so I'm watching out for future Dave, or there's no reason for present Dave to be selfish. Now, I think it would make sense for us to connect that end down there and make sure that the panels are visible before we cover this up.
like we actually get power through.
Yeah, make sure that there's no...
Because it'll work without the last 2 panels on.
Yeah. So the box is wired. I have my strain relief knots in the cable so it can't get pulled back out. The red is connected to red, black to black for each of the 2 strings. Connectors are all torqued down. Now we're ready to close this box up, hopefully for more than 30 years. There we go. We can put the last couple panels on and power this system up. We're putting our panels right here next to the meter, and we'll be bringing in our 10 gauge strings off the roof into this AC combiner box with a couple of breakers. Then we'll run from there to our outdoor AC disconnect. Typically there would be a lever on the side, but our inspector's letting us use this breaker as a fuse and a disconnect, so that's what we'll be using here. So we'll start by wiring this main disconnect. It's pretty simple. We'll just land our ground on the ground bus, neutral to the neutral bar, and then line 1 and line 2 to the line 1 and 2 inputs on the breaker. I forgot my torque wrench, so I'll snug these up and we'll have to come back and confirm the torque a little later on. Once you snug down the lug, I like to move the wire around a little bit and then just reconfirm that it's tight. This is an AC connection. It doesn't matter which one's red and which one's black. We're using 6 gauge wire for this box, even though that's overrated for the system we're installing, and that's because we want to make it capable for a little bit of expansion later on. So I'm only using a 40 amp breaker right now because that's all that the system requires, but because we installed 6 gauge wire, we'll be able to upgrade that later if we need to. Okay, now we'll be able to bring our conductors in from the combiner box. This makes our connection to the breaker panel. All right, I have a couple feet of 6 gauge THHN so we can connect our disconnect breaker to the combiner box. This is the ground from up on the roof. Cut that off. Come over here. So we'll start with the ground. Okay, that box is grounded.
Oh, I know it, 45 pounds.
I know what force is required.
Right. Yeah,
It is a lot. It's connected in each box. Now we can connect the 6 gauge. Now I can land neutral on the neutral bus. Sometimes it's easier to pop the breaker out. Connect the wires first. And that does make it difficult to put it back in because we have to tilt it. Okay. A little bit of a loop is a good thing to have in case something needs to change later. Be able to move it around. Now that those wires have moved, torque them one more time. Okay. Box is ready. Now I can land neutral on the neutral bus and then line 1 and line 2 on the main bars. I'll wrap them around the top to keep them out of the way of all the other wiring we have to do. All right, we have 2 20 amp breakers, one for each string. One in the first port and one in the second port. Now we have space for one more. If we add a string on the roof, we can pipe that one in. On this end, I've taped off the pairs so I know which pair goes to one string so I don't mismatch the 2 lines. And there's always a balance between having a nice neat box and having a little bit of a service loop, so I looped across the bottom of the box and back up into the breaker. If something needs to change at some point, we'll be sure to have enough length to do that. These breakers look a little bit different, but they're both square D. I don't have my torque wrench with me, so we'll have to come back and check these, but I have a pretty good idea of what's required. If all else fails, add a zip tie, keep everything nice and neat. All right, so everything is completely wired up. We just have to turn the breakers on once we have power. Both boxes, we're ready to put the covers on. All right, it's time to connect to power. We are going to use line side taps to connect to the utility. So we don't have to disconnect the utility for this. You can do it while it's hot, but that's something to keep in mind. These wires are hot. It would be nice if these lugs were covered. In some boxes they are, but they're not here. Make sure you take your jewelry off, and might help to wear some rubber gloves. You have to use taps that are line side rated and UL listed, and make sure that that's what it says on them. You can get some cheap ones on Amazon that are not UL listed or line side tap rated, and your inspector won't approve those. So these are a little more expensive, but you have to get the right ones. First thing I'm going to do is connect the ground and neutral before we get into the main lines. I have to put a little bit of a service loop on there in case we need to change it. It's a good idea to use insulated screwdrivers, especially if you're working in a live panel. The ground neutral bond is in this box, so that's why you see both ground and neutral on the same bus bars. This is a little older panel, so they're not separated like the new panels. Now we're ready to do the main taps. All right, we're going to place one tap on each line. The one on the left, we're going to come in from the top, and the one on the right, we're going to come in from the bottom. So to come in from the top, we'll remove the top purple cap, and then the inside of this is going to go over the main lug, and then we'll tighten that down until it's snug, and then feed in an unstripped portion of our connecting wire all the way in. And then we've used some tape on a ratchet here just to add a little bit of safety. We'll know when it's on because the bolt will break off. Is it gonna work, or? I might need deep oil. Oh, it broke off, huh? Guess we got it. Good. All right, for line 2, we're going to come in the bottom, so I'll take the purple cap off the bottom, set this on the wire, kind of get it snugged in there, feed that guy in, torque it down. Takes quite a bit of force, but breaks off. Now we're in there. Looks good. One advantage to using these line side taps is we don't have to rearrange the panel. He doesn't have space for a breaker for an input. That makes it so we don't have to rearrange the breakers and double up breakers and do a lot of rewiring. It's a pretty convenient way to make the connection, and it's right at the line input, so you don't have to worry about the load rating of the bus bar. We can go to the panel, turn on the breaker, measure the voltage, and see if we got it. All right, let's check at the main disconnect. Look at that, 240 volts. Those line side taps work. Flip those breakers on, let's see if it works.
Here we go.
All right, should take a few minutes to initialize, and we'll see if we're producing power. Are you excited?
I am very excited.
All right, there you have it. You're
Wow.
producing power, 2.57 kilowatts, even with the clouds out.
This is fantastic. How exciting.
Well, let's put those last 2 panels up now that we know it works, and we'll be ready to go.
Sounds great. Thank you, David.
The final step is to apply a series of warning labels that go on each one of your panels. They go next to your breakers. If you have solar going into breakers, they go on the conduits going around the building. However, a lot of the inspectors have a little different preference about which sticker they want and exactly where they want it. So if you have a good relationship with your inspector, I recommend just waiting until they come to do the inspection and just put them on together and make sure that you get the ones that they want where they want them. Otherwise, you can just go off the blueprints and get them as close as possible.
You know, Dave, I have been thinking about doing solar for 10 years.
What?
Yeah.
10 years?
And now they're here. This is so exciting for me.
I'm glad that you're excited, and we're actually producing power today.
Yes.
Everything works. That's pretty awesome. Well, it seemed like a daunting task at the beginning, right? But now that it's installed and actually running, what do you think?
I am so happy.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. We reflected on this, that, you know, it took quite a bit of effort to get on, but think about 25, 30 years of production. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, that'll make it a lot easier to retire with a $0 electric bill for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I could come back and help you with your install. We'll have to come back and do a performance check after a year or so and see how things are doing, see if the shading of the trees is impacting you too much or not, and see if it's covering 100% of your bills. If you found this project helpful, I have many more videos, projects, resources, and discounts available on my website, projectswithdave.com. If you want more help with solar installs, watch this video. And if you want a simple home backup option, watch this video. I hope you learned something today. I know I did. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.